I'm Alice Loxton, and I present documentaries over on History Hit TV. If you're passionate about all things royal history, sign up to History Hit TV. It's like Netflix, but just for history. You've got hours of ad-free documentaries about all aspects of the past. You can get a huge discount for History Hit TV. Make sure you check out the details in the video description and use the code REALROYALTY, all one word, when you sign up. Now, on with the show.
The royal family is one of the oldest monarchies on earth.
To celebrate the solemnity of our royal coronation,
Elizabeth II, who came to the throne in 1952, has ruled longer than any other British queen. But it's not all been plain sailing, thanks mainly to the marital antics of her children. It all began in 1992.
It has turned out to be an annus horribilis.
3 of her 4 children and Princess Diana saw their marriages fall apart.
No institution should expect to be free from the scrutiny of those who give it their loyalty and support.
Putting the entire family in the spotlight. Never before had so many royal secrets been made public.
Divorce?
very mirror.
Never been mentioned by anybody.
But the biggest story involved Diana and Prince Charles.
It is announced from Buckingham Palace that, with regret, the Prince and Princess of Wales have decided to separate.
And things went from bad to worse when Diana was killed.
I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others,
Leaving behind a wealth of conspiracy theories.
The idea the SAS was involved in the Princess of Wales' death appears to have come from within the SAS.
Which uncovered the monarchy's darkest secrets and rocked the royals to the core.
My son and Princess Diana been murdered by the royal family. We have a flash here from the Press Association Newswire saying that Diana, Princess of Wales, has died in a car crash in Paris.
In the early hours of the 31st of August, 1997, in a road tunnel in Paris, Diana, the Princess of Wales, was critically injured in a high-speed car crash. Her chauffeur-driven Mercedes hit a concrete pillar while being pursued by photographers and journalists. Diana was in the back with her Egyptian boyfriend, Dodi Fayed, who died almost instantly. Also dead was the French driver, Henri Paul. Apart from Diana, the only survivor was her bodyguard in the front seat, Trevor Rees-Jones.
The engine rammed up into the rear passenger area. Miraculously, Diana's bodyguard sitting in the front survived this.
Chaos at the scene hampered rescue efforts, but Diana was later reported to be critical but alive in hospital. By 4 a.m., she was dead.
This morning's shocking news that Diana, the Princess of Wales, has died.
The news shook the world.
I grew up with Princess Diana. I watched her get married. I watched her have 2 beautiful children.
The following day, her former husband, the Prince of Wales, arrived in France to collect her body and take Diana back home for burial, where already there was a spontaneous and unprecedented outpouring of national grief and recrimination.
She was life, she was wonderful. She set us all such a good example.
As the royal family tried to keep a collective stiff upper lip, the people of Britain demanded a show of emotion.
Nobody's going to say, oh, what's the matter with her? Why is she crying? Because everybody feels exactly the same.
When it didn't come immediately, their popularity and standing plummeted.
they're the most cold people on this earth.
Prince Charles's self-confessed affair with Camilla Parker Bowles and high-profile divorce from Diana had already villainized not only him, but the rest of the family too.
Princess Diana was like a light in the world, and now it's gone out, everybody's unhappy, and we've come here to help her rest in peace while she's gone up to heaven.
While the people mourned, the royals dithered. Remaining behind the high ramparts of Balmoral Castle.
But at 11:30 precisely, 3 black cars emerged from the castle and crossed the River Dee, the family on its way to church. The service in the local church lasted an hour, but not once was the princess mentioned by name.
Diana had earned her People's Princess title because of her hugely popular charitable work amongst the dispossessed and disadvantaged.
She gave too much and cared too deeply for us not to honor her memory with action.
Millions queued for hours to sign books of condolences.
There are thousands of people joining the queue all the time. They don't know how long they're going to have to wait, but here's an estimate: 4 hours.
And Buckingham Palace and her former home at Kensington Palace were surrounded by a sea of flowers left by ordinary people. In Scotland, the royal family continued their summer holiday.
We have no hard information, but it's looking more and more likely that the Queen and Prince Charles have decided that this remote Scottish estate is the best place for the 2 young princes to come to terms with their grief through the long days of this week before their mother's funeral.
But the clamour for them to come out grew ever stronger, forcing Diana's sons and ex-husband from behind closed doors. The People's Princess was born the Honourable Diana Spencer on the 1st of July 1961 in Norfolk, not far from the Queen's own estate at Sandringham. The Spencer family had long been close to the royal family, and when her father inherited the title Earl Spencer, Diana became Lady Spencer, though not of royal blood. When she first met Charles, Diana was not a potential suitor, but the younger sister of the heir to the throne's then girlfriend, Lady Sarah Spencer. The relationship with Sarah did not last long. It ended when Lady Sarah spoke to newspapers about her royal connections, but Diana and Charles did not fall out.
I remember thinking what a very jolly and amusing and attractive 16-year-old she was.
At the time of this first meeting, Diana was going through a rough time. Academically, she was considered a poor student, failing her O-level exams twice. She spent her time studying ballet and dreaming of becoming a ballerina before she grew too tall. It was at a royal polo match that romance began to blossom. Charles was in his early 30s and under increasing pressure to marry and produce a male heir to the House of Windsor. The rumour mill went into overdrive when Charles invited Diana on a trip aboard the royal yacht Britannia, and then for a weekend at Balmoral. It was there that she first met her future mother-in-law, Queen Elizabeth, and her husband, Prince Philip, and the Queen Mother. A proposal from Prince Charles followed a few months later, and Diana said yes. Her engagement ring caught the eye of the world. 14 solitaire diamonds surrounding a 12-carat oval blue Ceylon sapphire set in white gold. It's now worn by Kate, the Duchess of Cambridge, given to her when she married Diana's son, Prince William. But back in 1981, the alarm bells were already ringing. When the couple gave an interview about their engagement, Prince Charles seemed unable to confirm it was true love.
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
Love or not, the next step was a fairy tale wedding. With Diana showing more nerves than her husband-to-be, she confused the order of his many names.
Take thee, Charles Philip Arthur George.
Take thee, Philip Charles Arthur George.
And the wedding vows deliberately omitted one traditional line. Diana did not promise to obey her husband. A year later, Diana gave birth to their first child, Prince William, second in line to the throne after his father. The Queen and her whole royal family were delighted. At last, they had the male heir they wanted. It did not take long for the cracks to show. Prince Charles followed up his whatever love is gaffe with a remark about needing another woman in his life.
I've come to the conclusion that really it would have been far easier to have had 2 wives.
Although most people did not realise it at the time, there was someone else already. Camilla Parker Bowles. The Prince of Wales first met Camilla Parker Bowles in 1970, well before Diana. She made an immediate and lasting impression. Shortly after being introduced, Camilla pointed out that her relative Alice Keppel had been mistress to a previous Prince of Wales, King Edward VII. Charles and Camilla started a romantic relationship which lasted about a year. Nicknaming each other Fred and Gladys, it seemed they were destined to make it permanent. However, Charles was not ready to marry and went off to join the Navy. As they went their separate ways, Camilla wed Andrew Parker Bowles, the Queen Mother's godson. But rumours persisted that she and Charles remained close. When Prince Charles finally decided to settle down with Diana, everyone assumed Camilla was out of his life for good. Years later, Diana famously revealed one of her then husband's greatest secrets. In marriage, she was not his only love.
Fleet Street were out in full force at Cowdray Park as Prince Charles rode out the storm of speculation surrounding his marriage.
Although she never referred to her rival by name, the British public assumed the other person in her marriage was Camilla. They turned out to be right. In what was considered to be an authorised biography of the Prince of Wales, it was revealed that he had started a second affair with Camilla Parker Bowles in 1986, 5 years after his marriage to Diana.
Did you try to be faithful and honourable to your wife when you took on the vow of marriage?
Yes, absolutely.
And you were?
Yes. Until it became irretrievably broken down.
As an increasing number of photographs appeared showing Charles and Diana posing separately in different parts of the world, speculation that the royal marriage was finally over reached fever pitch. When Diana was pictured and filmed all alone at the famously romantic Taj Mahal in India, where couples usually came to renew their vows of love, the world knew. In 1992, in the House of Commons, the government of the day formally revealed Britain's worst-kept secret.
It is announced from Buckingham Palace that, with regret, the Prince and Princess of Wales have decided to separate.
Divorce was not yet on the cards. Charles was, after all, heir to the throne, and even an increasingly tolerant United Kingdom was thought not ready for a divorced king. Diana, who had always been popular with the public and who always created huge media attention, began to develop her own personality outside the royal family. She quickly began to assume the mantle of a people's princess. But Diana was no angel. She had secrets too, later confessing to an affair with another polo player, Major James Hewitt, whilst she was still married to Prince Charles. The revelations did not harm her popularity. It wasn't until 1997, 6 years after they separated, that Charles and Diana were finally divorced. Diana received a lump sum settlement of £17 million.
I think it'd be a day of mixed emotions. It'd be a day of sadness at many wasted years inside the royal family. She still calls that time the Dark Ages. It's also a day of hope because at last she's released from what she calls my prison.
She also won a significant concession from her former jailers.
These are the key points of the settlement announced today. Diana will no longer be Her Royal Highness. Palace officials say she became HRH on marriage. They claim she recognises it must now go. Her new title will be Diana, Princess of Wales. However, she'll still be regarded as a member of the royal family by the Queen and Prince Charles because she's Prince William's mother. She'll still attend some state occasions. She's now deciding which ones.
Diana's life after divorce took on a new meaning. Wherever she went and whatever she did, Diana captured headlines. She became a passionate advocate for the victims of landmines left behind in war zones.
3, firing.
When she was filmed and photographed walking through a cleared minefield, she used the controversy to promote the cause. But after Charles, she kept her personal life as private as she could.
Could I ask you to respect my children's space?
Until she was befriended by the Egyptian tycoon and owner of Harrods, Mohammed Al Fayed, who had tried and failed for years to get a British passport. He invited Diana to holiday on his yacht with her 2 young sons, the Princes William and Harry. It was there that she met Al Fayed's son, Dodi. He was the only man, other than Prince Charles, who the princess allowed herself to be photographed intimately with. It was her association with the Al Fayeds that led to the chain of events that caused her death. In the 24 hours before the fatal car crash in Paris, Diana and Dodi had been holidaying in the Mediterranean on board Mohammed Al Fayed's yacht. They took a private jet from Sardinia to Paris, where Diana planned to stay one night before returning to London. They were met in the French capital by Henri Paul, the deputy head of security at Al Fayed's family-owned hotel. Outside, a growing number of waiting paparazzi appeared to know the couple's plans. The word was that Diana was about to announce she would marry Dodi. Speculation that was further fueled by Dodi leaving the Ritz to pick up a ring from a nearby jeweler's. To escape the increasing attentions of the paparazzi, Diana and Dodi went to his private apartment on the Champs-Élysées, leaving by a rear exit to try and fool the media. But it didn't work. Dodi wanted to take Diana for a romantic Parisian dinner, but had to abandon the idea when the paparazzi swarmed. The pair returned to the safe haven of the Ritz, where they dined alone in the imperial suite. Meanwhile, their driver, Henri Paul, and bodyguard Trevor Rhys-Jones waited in the bar. Later, Henri Paul was seen talking to the press, and according to some who were there, he told them the princess and Dodi would be leaving the hotel soon. Paul then arranged with Trevor Rhys-Jones a decoy to distract the paparazzi. The Mercedes and Range Rover the couple had been using that day would leave from the front of the hotel, without Diana and Dodi inside. The couple would exit the back of the hotel in another Mercedes, driven by Henri Paul. Rhys-Jones was to accompany them. The plan went wrong from the start. The couple's car was soon caught by the chasing paparazzi pack as it travelled at high speed towards Place de la Concorde. At 25 minutes past midnight, the Mercedes crashed into the 13th pillar of the Alma Tunnel. Dodi Fayed and Henri Paul were killed instantly. Diana and her bodyguard suffered severe injuries.
Bodyguard Trevor Rhys-Jones can be seen here with Princess Diana and Dodi Al Fayed earlier in the same day.
This is the first time I've spoken publicly since the accident that happened at the end of August last year. And I would firstly like to extend my sympathy to the family and friends of those who were tragically killed in the accident.
The paparazzi were at the scene in seconds. It emerged later that they continued to take photos of the suffering princess as she lay trapped in the car, before calling an ambulance.
It was a circus.
To see these journalists going up to the windshield to get as close as they could to take pictures.
None of them helped the people injured. They asked some of their colleagues not to call the police, to have more time to take pictures.
Many of the paparazzi who chased Diana that night remain unrepentant.
It's absolutely out of proportion. I'm sorry? It's absolutely out of proportion with the facts.
They didn't impede me from getting to the car. They didn't stop me any more than any photographer at the scene of an accident.
Diana had paid a heavy price for her fame. Even in her final moments, she was hounded by the very people who had helped make her an icon.
It is a point to remember that of all the ironies about Diana, perhaps the greatest was this. A girl given the name of the ancient goddess of hunting was, in the end, the most hunted person of the modern age.
The public quickly blamed the owners of the newspapers and magazines which had paid for pictures of Diana.
Why did they pay so much money for the photographs?
Why were the paparazzi after them? If there was no money in the photographs, they wouldn't have been after her in the tunnel.
And the hunt began for those directly responsible for the crash. Paparazzi were arrested and charged with the offence of failing to help a person injured in a road accident.
If there is an accident, they should become citizens again and stop being journalists.
Her driver, Henri Paul, was found to be over the drink drive limit.
The princess was being driven by a drunk on a bending, dipping road at 121 miles an hour.
Diana and Dodie weren't wearing seatbelts. Only her bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, was absolved of any blame.
I've cooperated fully with the judge who's investigating the accident, and I've told him all that I know up to this present time. I may wish to ask to see the judge again in the future, but I've no intention of doing this at the moment. I'd also like to add that I've got no intentions of speaking further on the subject publicly until after the court proceedings are finished, if at all.
Diana, the Princess of Wales, was always adored by her public, an adoration which only increased as her struggles to come to terms with the family she had married into became apparent.
The book serialised in the Sunday Times today claims it was the prince's indifference to his wife that caused her chronic depression and 5 separate suicide attempts.
Diana never got used to being the world's most photographed woman. Her popularity was a double-edged sword. She believed the media she once courted had become her enemy. Even today, the facts surrounding the death of Diana are far from clear, and many conspiracy theories still abound. Despite inquests and formal investigations, none have been proved, but most remain unanswered. The People's Princess was a complex person. She undoubtedly took many royal secrets to the grave. But she did leave one clue about what she thought the royal family's priorities should be as this real 21st century Game of Thrones plays out.
My first priority will continue to be our children, William and Harry, who deserve as much love and care and attention as I am able to give, as well as an appreciation of the tradition into which they were born.
It's 1948. The world is no longer at war. But in Britain, food is still scarce and there is rationing. Hitler's bombs have left a legacy. But there is good news too.
Let us give thanks to Almighty God for the birth of a son to Her Royal Highness, the Princess Elizabeth, and our husband, the Duke of Edinburgh.
The news brought the people onto the streets. The nation had a future king. Few knew it then, but they were celebrating the birth of a prince who would become the longest-serving heir to the throne of modern times, as well as the most controversial and secretive.
Are you still writing to ministers letters like that? Have you not been behaving unconstitutionally by writing letters like that?
For the tens of thousands who've gathered here.
The enduring popularity of the monarchy became clear in 2012, when Queen Elizabeth achieved her Diamond Jubilee. 60 years on the throne meant she would become the longest-serving British Queen in history. Organising the celebrations was Prince Charles, who was also marking his Diamond anniversary. 60 years as a king in waiting. Elizabeth's long reign was being honoured for its stability and sure hand. But for the man born to be king, life has been filled with controversy and tumultuous relationships. Charles Philip Arthur George was only 3 when he became heir to his mother's throne. 6 years later, at the age of 9, he became the Prince of Wales, the traditional title for a male heir. With it came an array of responsibilities and roles, like introducing his mother to his classmates at school. A scene that showed the world the formality that existed within the royal family. Decades later, Charles was reunited with a former classmate under very different circumstances.
It started as a routine royal visit, Prince Charles meeting the homeless. That is, until the prince took his seat next to Clive Harold wearing a red scarf.
Do you realise we're at school together?
Do you realise we were at school together, Clive asked. Royal astonishment, followed by laughter. A prince and a pauper chatting about their old school days.
The idea that we would meet 44 years later, and I'd be on the streets and he'd be obviously where he is now, it was strange.
At London tube stations, Clive sells copies of The Big Issue, homeless but still with humour, as he offered his Santa hat as a parting gift.
Charles's education was revolutionary for the royal family. Until he came along, royal children were educated at home, away from prying eyes and fellow pupils. But the Queen and Prince Philip wanted Charles to be a very different kind of king, so they sent him to public school. From the start, Charles was expected to engage with his future subjects, and they with him, especially when it came to sport. His Royal Highness soon found that his classmates were not afraid to take him on. Five years later, they sent him to boarding school in Scotland, a far cry from Buckingham Palace. It was the same school his father went to, a harsh and uncompromising place.
His father, who apparently regarded him as a wimp, insisted on sending him to the tough regime of Gordonstoun, where he was deeply unhappy and wrote that his life was literal hell.
The hell included bullying by older boys and an abrupt end to his childhood. When he was 18, they sent him even further away, to Australia and the Timbertop School in Melbourne. Even on the other side of the world, Charles was constantly in the limelight as the press followed him relentlessly. Life in Australia was even tougher than Scotland. But Charles loved it, relishing in 70-mile cross-country hikes and being called a pommy bastard. Years later, his equerry was quoted as saying, "I went out with a boy and came back with a man." Charles's next stop was much closer to home, Cambridge University. As he approached his 21st birthday, the prince came of age, as his mother formally invested him as the Prince of Wales. Next, he became a sporting hero on the polo field, a pursuit he had fallen in love with as a child. It began to define him as a man. His daredevilry on the field earned him the nickname Action Man. But it came at a price.
The Prince of Wales has a reputation for playing polo hard. While he once gained an international handicap, putting him among the world's best, it's been at a cost. The continual spills on the field have resulted in a nagging back condition. At times, his frustration with the condition's been apparent.
He's extremely unwise to get back in the saddle so soon. Doctors already told him that if he carries on bashing his back the way he is, he faces possible surgery. And it's only 3 weeks since that warning was made by one of Britain's top orthopaedic surgeons.
The Prince's staff say he's pulling back from the sport because he doesn't want an injury to disrupt his official duties.
Official duties involved joining the Navy, following the royal tradition of a military career. His status made him an officer, but he proved his worth by serving on guided missile destroyers and a minehunter. He also qualified as a pilot.
I think it gives one a very useful experience of responsibility and discipline. I think responsibility is the most important thing.
When Charles left the Navy, like everyone else, he was given £7,000 severance pay. But he didn't spend it on himself. 1.5 million people were out of work at the time. Charles used his windfall to set up the Prince's Trust. Its aim is to help the disadvantaged and to provide money for young entrepreneurs. Its early years coincided with a continuing lack of jobs and violence on the streets.
The single greatest problem has to be unemployment. We are faced with large numbers of unemployed youngsters who have absolutely nothing at all to do, and no chance of getting a job, so the situation is getting worse.
Charles tried to stop the situation from getting worse by investing money in business startup schemes run by young people with no obvious track record.
What we were always trying to do, what I again was trying to do, was to develop hidden talent amongst a large number, I think, of young people all over the country, however disadvantaged or alienated they may be. I had my self-confidence developed when I was younger, and it does enable you to face a lot more of the challenges of life.
For the Trust, the challenges of life involved pop and rock and roll, as Charles harnessed show business to raise money. All this, and being a future king, made the young prince a sex symbol. An unmarried heir to a throne is always in demand, and Charles played the role to perfection, earning himself another title, the world's most eligible bachelor. Women flocked to him, and the tabloids had a field day. First, there was Lucia Santa Cruz, a fellow student at Cambridge. She was seen as his first proper girlfriend. The romance survived only a few months. Many hoped the next one, Lady Jane Wellesley, would be the prime candidate for marriage to the prince with her impeccable pedigree. She was the great-great-great-granddaughter of the first Duke of Wellington. However, she is said to have turned down the idea of marriage, blaming the media for its intense scrutiny. But while Charles played the field, his family became concerned about the succession. They needed another heir who would succeed him as king one day. He needed to settle down. In 1977, Prince Charles had a fling with 22-year-old Lady Sarah Spencer, daughter of the 8th Earl of Spencer. It ended in acrimony after she leaked details of their relationship to the press. Charles sought solace in the arms of her younger sister. Lady Diana Spencer was 13 years younger, but it quickly became clear that she was the one.
I'm not going to say anything, wait. Right, but Prince Charles did give us a hint himself. He said we wouldn't have to wait too long.
It wasn't long before it turned into an engagement. Love was in the air. For everyone but Charles.
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
Well, it
obviously put your own interpretation.
Obviously means two very happy people.
Yes.
Again, congratulations.
Well, from us, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
When the wedding vows came 5 months later, Charles's whatever in love means remark seemed to be forgotten.
I pronounce that they be man and wife together.
The heir to the throne had settled down, and Britain had a future queen. Or so everyone thought. The ceremony was shown around the world and watched by 750 million people. But behind the fairy tale facade lay a secret. Both Charles and his bride had separately thought of calling off the ceremony, because each knew the relationship was deeply flawed.
This is another high-risk strategy by the prince, an authorized biography over which he had no editorial control, revealing that he had felt forced into proposing by his father, by whom he had been bullied and mocked as a boy. The young Diana Spencer would be compromised, the Duke had warned, unless Prince Charles made up his mind. Feeling ill-used but impotent, he chose to marry.
At the time, no one else had a clue, because in public, they appeared the perfect couple. Diana was good at courting the media and quickly became a sensation. She appeared accessible in ways her husband could never be. And then, along came the children. A shared bond, but not enough to hold a marriage together. Images of a less than happy Diana started to appear. Many speculated that the prince had reignited a relationship with his former lover, Camilla Parker Bowles. The pair had conducted a mostly secret relationship for a quarter of a century. Charles's extramarital exploits allowed the tabloids to renew their attack.
As revealed on News at 10 last night, the admission that he'd not been faithful to Princess Diana, and the question is being asked after this, should the prince still become king?
It's up to us whether we are prepared to accept that he is fallible like the rest of us, or whether we're going to cling to some kind of old-fashioned delusion that the monarchy is somehow or other above all sin.
Tensions were already running high, following what was first thought to be an assassination attempt in Australia.
On the country's most cherished celebration, Australia Day, 2 shots rang out. His personal detective elbowed the prince out of harm's way, checked the attacker, and then shepherded Charles to safety. He'd run fast from the front of the crowd, firing a starting pistol, and got within a few feet of the prince. In the confusion in front of a huge crowd, it seemed for a few terrible moments to those of us present that a serious attempt had been made on the prince's life. The attacker was David Kang, a 23-year-old university student who'd already written to the prince protesting about the condition of Cambodian boat people, some 200 of whom are held here.
David Kang was sentenced to 500 hours of community service for threatening unlawful violence. He went on to become a barrister, specialising in criminal law. Back in the UK, the press were revealing for the first time that Charles and Diana were to separate and divorce. When Diana died in Paris, the heir to the throne was free to have an open relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, and then marry her.
The prince leading Camilla Parker Bowles out from the shadows on his arm, his former lover and mistress, now his wife, and the new Duchess of Cornwall.
Charles's divorce and remarriage caused unrest and debate within the Church of England and throughout Britain as a whole. As future king, he would become the symbolic head of the Protestant Church with the title Defender of the Faith. But before marrying Camilla, Charles decreed that when he became king, he would change his title to Defender of Faith rather than Defender of the Faith, a subtle but important difference in emphasis which recognised the changing face of multicultural Britain.
Prince Charles is said to want an end to a tradition dating back to the time of King Henry VIII in the 16th century. Referring to the fact that the monarch is traditionally head of the Protestant established church, the prince is quoted as saying, "I happen to believe that the Catholic subjects are as important, not to mention the Islamic and Hindu." Whatever his motives, Prince Charles's decision is already being welcomed by the leaders of other faiths. They say it will encourage religious tolerance.
Prince Charles is one of the richest men in the world. His money comes from a number of sources, the bulk from the Duchy of Cornwall estates, which he inherited after his mother became queen. Its main purpose is to provide the heir to the throne with an independent income. The duchy owns 135,000 acres of land, recently valued at £703 million. It also sells a huge range of food products, many of them from the heir to the throne's own farms. The duchy is said to make a profit of £19 million a year. But it pays no corporation tax and publishes no accounts, even though Prince Charles calls himself an entrepreneur.
The Duchy of Cornwall, which includes the prince's land holdings, property and even some food lines, is equivalent to a mid-sized company. But controversially, the duchy pays no corporation tax, even though the prince himself says he's an entrepreneur.
He's using this idea that he's an entrepreneur on his website and in his campaign to become king, which it is a campaign, actually. But the fact is, he doesn't act like an entrepreneur. Most entrepreneurs have to pay the full rate of tax on their businesses, both capital gains and the corporation tax. And he doesn't do that. He has a special status.
After years of pressure to come clean, Prince Charles finally published some accounts for his duchy in 2015. It was a breakthrough aimed at public opinion.
An opinion poll suggests many of us still support the idea of a monarchy. But the very fact today's accounts were published show the royals are under pressure to justify their income and perhaps their continued existence.
Despite his great wealth, Prince Charles has been ruled by a social conscience, and his prince's trust has earned him the highest praise.
I would like to take this opportunity to say to you, Charles, how proud I am of everything you have accomplished with the Trust, and the way you personally have inspired this organization.
But not everything he has done has earned accolades. When he revealed he talked to his plants at his Highgrove home, it brought ridicule. And his numerous interventions in political matters have been controversial. The heir to the throne, like the Queen, is supposed to be above the rough and tumble of British politics. But it's now clear that he's spent half a century behind the scenes trying to influence and lobby politicians about the things he cares about.
Prince Charles has his own financial interests, and he is clearly very happy to lobby ministers to pursue those interests and that agenda. He has unique privileges in terms of secrecy around, he's not covered by freedom of information, and so it raises a whole host of questions of conflict of interest.
Charles's behind-the-scenes interests first burst into the spotlight when it emerged he'd got involved in the transfer of sovereignty from Hong Kong to China. He called Chinese government officials appalling old waxworks. The revelations came from his personal diaries, leaked to an English newspaper, which resulted in a massive court case.
The judge agreed with his lawyers that this was a breach of his copyright and confidentiality. The newspaper is seeking leave to challenge today's judgment in the Court of Appeal.
We believe our report and this legal action both raise very serious questions about the constitutional role of the heir to the throne and the freedom of the press. It cannot be legitimate for the prince to claim the right to engage in political controversy and at the same time deny the public the right to know that he is doing so.
Prince Charles's lobbying of government ministers was rarely done face-to-face. He let them know what he thought by sending memos with handwritten notes. They became known as the Spider Memos because of his handwriting. When a Freedom of Information request was made to make 27 of them public, he went to court. After a 10-year legal battle, which took the fight to the Supreme Court, he lost. Britain was at last able to see what he had been up to. His interventions earned him the nickname the Meddling Prince.
Call it taking a royal interest or plain meddling. Whatever your view, in his many letters, the prince expressed strong opinions on a wide variety of subjects that are clearly close to his heart.
The prince's letters are known as the Black Spider Memos, a reference to the handwriting, and ministers are said to have complained about being bombarded by them. And he hasn't stopped at letters, also speaking out in public on everything from political correctness to BSE.
BSE, or mad cow disease, as it was more commonly called, put the prince firmly at war with the powers that be.
We see the consequences of treating animals like machines, seeking ever greater efficiency, and even experimenting catastrophically, as we now know, with totally inappropriate alternative fuels.
Charles's critics believe that by dipping his toe in political waters, he's not just meddled, he's tried to exert influence.
In this country, put up with the monarchy, support the monarchy because they think it's beyond politics, outside of politics, and doesn't get involved. If these letters prove that to be false, that may do quite considerable damage to the monarchy.
Being beyond politics is something Charles's mother, the Queen, has upheld throughout her reign. He has not been so careful. But royal observers say he will have to toe a more diplomatic line when he eventually succeeds her.
When he becomes the king, he must be scrupulously neutral, just like Queen Elizabeth is, and he will have to change his behaviour.
Prince Charles has been scrutinised since the day he was born. Despite this, he's managed to keep many things quiet. From his clandestine affair with the woman who is now his wife, to his memos and letters to ministers. His mother is not only Britain's longest-serving queen, she is also by far the most popular. Whether he can emulate that and her sureness of hand, only time will tell.